Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenilee and we are going to take you through a week of summer breakfasts. I love summertime, the relaxed pace of life, especially out here in the country. And we are reaping all of the gems of the season, including the berries. We have a few mulberry trees on our property, and we made sure this year to catch them before the birds did. What we eat in the summertime is designed by what Mother Nature is putting out. So this morning we are having buttermilk pancakes with mulberry syrup. This is my no-fail buttermilk pancake recipe, and it starts out with 1 cup of wheat flour, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and 4 tablespoons of brown sugar or honey or whatever sweetener you want to use, 1/2 cup of either melted butter or coconut oil. This morning I'm using melted coconut oil, and 2 fresh farm eggs, and either 2 cups of milk, but since we're making buttermilk pancakes, it's about 1 3/4 cup of buttermilk. If you need to add a little bit of water to water it down, the buttermilk pancakes are definitely thicker than my normal pancakes. I grew up in berry country. I grew up in Oregon, and I always dreamt of having a place that had my own berries. And so when we moved to 26 acres in Missouri and found berries growing on our property, I was over the moon, so happy. So for the berry sauce, it's about 2 cups of fresh berries, about 3/4 cup of sugar, and 3/4 cup of water, and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And then later on, we're going to add some lemon juice to that as well to balance out the sweetness. I like to toss my berries in on top of my pancakes, kind of as I go. I do this with chocolate chips as well. I just never know who wants berries or chocolate in theirs and who doesn't. And then I kind of cover them up so that they don't burn on the bottom of the pan. I love that we have a little bit more time in the summer. We're not rushing off to activities or anything like that. And so breakfasts are usually pretty laid back. We do pancakes and waffles often. But I'm going to show you a few ideas that we're pulling together this week. But pancakes is a very common menu item to find in our house. Although you will always find butter and maple syrup on the table, I do like to switch it up with fresh berries or peaches, or maybe making kind of a pie filling with apples. Whatever is in season is usually what's going over the pancakes. Mulberries naturally have a soft little stem that's connected to those, and instead of pulling those all out, I'm just blending it all together, and the sauce came out nice and smooth, and it is definitely best served nice and warm over buttery buttermilk pancakes. Missouri summers are hot and sultry. We usually like to get our outdoor chores done in the morning or the evening. But before I head out, I always drink an electrolyte drink. I want to thank Element for sponsoring today's video. Element is a tasty electrolyte drink with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means no junk, no sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no fillers. Ever since I had my 4th baby last summer, I have been having many migraines, and I finally pinned it down to dehydration. And so I start one of these Element drinks at night. I drink half of it and put it in the fridge and have the other half in the morning. And I haven't had a migraine since I started drinking this electrolyte drink. Jared is a big fan of the sparkling electrolyte drinks. He likes to have one of those with his breakfast after working in the garden. Now, Element is offering my listeners a free sample pack with any drink mix order. That's 8 single serving packets free with any Element drink mix order after the 25th. You also get one of these if you order a sparkling drink pack, which you're going to want to try those as well. They have such unique flavors. One of my favorite flavors is caramel chocolate. And I like to make a sort of a dessert with it, a summer dessert, by pouring it into some ice and putting a little bit of cream, filling the rest of it with water, shaking it up. It's very similar to an iced coffee, and it's icy, cold, sweet, and delicious. Remember, the link is down in the description box. While I have your attention in the garden, I wanted to show you a part of the garden that wasn't covered in weeds. We are experimenting with weed tarp and wanting to extend our tomato season, hoping that this greenhouse will work for the fall. We have tomatoes and basil and peppers in here. I'll put down in the description box where we got this tarp and greenhouse, and I'm excited for all this delicious food to come in, make tomato sauces and salsas. This morning's breakfast is inspired by my childhood camping trips. When I was a kid, we used to go to the mountains up in Oregon and go camping. We would camp by an icy, cold mountain river. And one of the breakfasts we always had was scones, but not the typical type of scones. These scones are made with bread dough, and you spread that bread dough out flat and fry it in oil and serve it with butter and honey. These are kind of like donuts. It's something I remember looking forward to as a kid and loving. I'm pretty sure that my mom just picked up a bag of frozen dough rolls from the freezer section at the grocery store. I had some leftover roll dough in the freezer that I used to make hamburger buns with you guys not too long ago. And so I pulled those out. Thought we would use them for our summer scones this morning. And we're serving them with some cantaloupe melon over cottage cheese. We would go on these particular camping trips annually. We would go to the same place every year, the same camp spot, and we would go on a hike up to this mountain lake. And before we left on the hike, my dad would always put a watermelon wedged in between rocks in the icy cold river. So when we got back from our hike up to the lake, we would have an icy cold watermelon waiting for us at the campsite. It's repeating traditions like these over and over and over again as children that really imprint these memories in our minds. And when we have these particular foods, I'm always amazed how it brings us back to those moments that we remember. And that's why food brings people together. That's why it instills memories and evokes feelings in us. And that always amazes me. There you go. And once again, I made food sentimental. I know you didn't think it was possible to make scones sentimental, but I guess that's just who I am. So on this morning, we do this a lot. We are having a breakfast hash. We harvested these red potatoes from our garden just last week, and we have potatoes for breakfast quite often. I think that's my husband's family tradition that he brought into the family. And this is exactly how he does it. He puts his potatoes in the microwave for about a minute per potato. These smaller potatoes didn't take very long, and just to get them soft. And this is my twist on it. I'm frying up some breakfast sausage and adding some onions. We have a lot of yellow squash coming out of the garden, more than we need. So we are adding yellow squash to just about everything these days. So I'm adding some yellow squash to our breakfast hash. And now the potatoes are soft, and I'm going to cut those up. I usually like to chop them up when they're just a little bit more firm than this, but that's okay. Chop them up and throw them into our breakfast hash and have them soak up all of the oils of the sausage. I'm going to add some salt and pepper. And I like to sprinkle mine with a little bit of cheddar cheese and let that get nice and toasty. And we're going to serve this with some over easy fried eggs on top. And I have some lovely herbs growing out in a pot on the porch that we're going to top it off with as well, just to make it look pretty. As different goodies are coming out of the garden, we'll be adding peppers and tomatoes and all sorts of delicious fresh veggies to our breakfast hash. My kids like to eat it with ketchup on top or hot sauce, maybe with some toast and bread on the side. Lastly, we're going to be making some lemon poppy seed muffins. This is a new recipe in my kitchen that looked absolutely delicious and I wanted to try. I also wanted to try making my own cupcake liners with parchment paper. And you start out by cutting 6-inch squares, fold it so there's 4 creases, and then cut the creases, leaving about an inch around the center. I'm adding a little bit of honey to my cupcake liner to keep them in place. And then you kind of just push them into the center and let them fold over on the edges. And it looks really pretty. I'll be sure to put this recipe down below, but it starts out by making a crumble to go on top. Of course, any crumble over a muffin makes it look absolutely delicious. And we're adding lots of lemon zest to our crumble. This recipe is full of a lemon punch. It's a little sour and tart, but full of flavor. And to really bring out the oils and the lemon zest, I'm rubbing my fingers into the sugar and the lemon zest, and that just really brings out all of the aroma and flavor from the lemon rind. Not every breakfast needs to feel elaborate. They change on a daily basis. Some breakfasts we feel like taking a little bit more time, enjoying something a little bit more special, and other times we are busy getting something done, doing a project. Maybe we want to go do an adventure and travel somewhere. So adding muffins to your breakfast, you could make these muffins in the evening, some afternoon when you have some time, and have them ready to go for maybe a quicker breakfast. So for this breakfast, we're having more of a continental style of breakfast. I'm going to boil up some eggs. We have some leftover potato hash from the day before. And so if anybody wants a muffin with boiled eggs or leftovers from the day before, it's just really easy. And it doesn't take long when you have the muffins prepared ahead of time. I didn't have any buttermilk left, and so I am adding some lemon juice to my milk and letting that sit here on the counter for that to thicken up. And this is a great way to have a buttermilk alternative. lemon poppy seed is such a classic flavor combination. My friend the other day was telling me about a great lemon cake recipe that she had, and that she made it for her husband's birthday, and she wished it was a lemon poppy seed recipe. And I suggested just throwing in some poppy seeds in her favorite lemon cake recipe. And we both laughed at how simple of an idea that was, to just add poppy seeds to your favorite recipe already. And she wondered why she hadn't thought about that. It was a little tricky getting the batter into these liners without getting them on the edges, but that's okay. I'm adding the crumble on top of the batter. I'm going to be baking them at 375 degrees and watching them probably for about 15 to 18 minutes. And I'm also sprinkling some pure raw cane sugar on top just to balance out that sour crumble that we put on top of there, and it looks really pretty too. I always wish that I doubled the muffin recipe. They just don't last long enough in our house, and I often want to share them with a friend or send them to the neighbor. So I'm taking note to double them next time. And now I'm just getting those eggs started, putting them in the boiling water. I like to boil my eggs for 14-15 minutes, seems to be just right. Then pull them out and pour all the hot water out and let them sit for a little bit in really cold water, and that seems to help them peel very well. So now that the muffins are done, oh, they were so good served, nice and warm. I'm just making a glaze to go on top. This glaze is made with lemon juice and powdered sugar. And I just started out really dry and slowly add in the lemon juice. If you need to add a little bit of milk or water to thin it down, or maybe you love that tart and sweet glaze, it is really good over a lemon muffin. And I think they turned out just beautiful. So I'll put some recipes down in the description box below, along with our favorite electrolyte drinks that we're enjoying this summer. I want to thank you all for joining me here today, and stay tuned. Follow me over on our YouTube community tab where I keep you guys updated, and I'll see you guys next week for another video. Love you lots.